photos.
Welcome back to the show. Now London is depicted as a flooded and lawless city in a new movie where a mother and baby must fight for survival in the wake of an environmental disaster. Jodie Comer takes the lead in The End We Start From, which has just been released in cinemas. Let's take a look.
What you miss doesn't exist.
What's going on? I'm just like having a moment, you know.
Well, joining me now to talk about the film is our arts and entertainments reporter, Bethany Minnell. Well, first of all, what's the film like?
It's utterly compelling. This is really a movie of two halves. It's about two themes. Motherhood, that's the running theme, but motherhood in an apocalyptic dystopian world, and one where the climate crisis literally is hitting at the very moment. Our lead character, unnamed woman, is giving birth to her first child, and it very cleverly intertwines these two storylines, which seem absolutely like they wouldn't go together, but it knits a really compelling story that literally has you on the edge of your seat throughout.
I gather you've spoken both to Jodie Comer and to the director, Mahalia Bello. Did they seem engaged in the climate aspect of this?
Well, it's the dramatic element of the film, so they were both engaged with it. It's fair to say that Jodie Comer is a star, and she brings professionalism to everything she does. She hit upon the fact it was a big theme for her character, whereas the director, Mahalia, really hoped it would inspire a bit of a change. And in fact, when I spoke to them, this is what they told me.
I mean, I think we all feel incredibly overwhelmed by it, is my worry. You know, I think it can be very scary, and I think as a result of that we can feel stifled and not know what it is that we can do.
The feeling is that it's inevitable to some extent, that unless some change happens and unless people who have some ability to make change actually really listen to what experts are saying, because I think everybody knows we're on an island, sea levels will rise at some point, you know, what's going to happen.
So it's interesting, in those clips you can see that they care about it, but at the same time they're being quite sort of careful about what they say. It's not, in effect, their natural territory. Well, they're not climate scientists. Do you feel the issue is kind of well handled and is still delivered with power? Because that's what everybody is hoping for, those who are concerned about these issues.
Absolutely. I mean, the word apocalypse isn't taken lightly, is it? But I think we're really brought home that we see this kind of disaster unfurling. We see everyday people like you and me, having to deal with, having to get out of their homes, having to run away with their family, losing members of their family, staying in camps and sleeping on the floor. And it's a real reminder, actually, that disaster isn't always something that happens to other people. It can happen to us, and this film does that very effectively. And there's also some wonderful scenes shot in a dystopian London, flooded with water, double-decker buses floating along Fleet Street, which pleasingly did used to be a river. So there's some very clever touches in this, all taken from the book.
One thing I wonder, though, is that there's a sort of fantasy-reality thing here. Sometimes when we go to the cinema, we prefer to keep it all as fantasy, and our threat as fantasy, let's say a meteor from somewhere else. Whereas this is a reality, and I'm wondering how that'll affect the audience.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, I think we'd think twice before watching a zombie movie or a monster movie late at night on our own. But potentially we should worry more about this kind of film because it's a very real threat. And this doesn't push the point too much. This isn't an educational film. But it certainly reminds you of our potential realities if we don't take action. And it has to be said that it's very unusual to see a woman, a mother and a baby as our lead characters. When we see those kind of characters in disaster and survival films, they're often the victims. So it's really nice to see them elevated to our heroine of the piece.
Bethany, thank you very much indeed.